Today, I want to cover some hiring trends that I saw in 2024 and kind of going into early 2025. So I've got 6 hiring trends that I saw in 2024 and then 3 predictions that I have for 2025. And you might be asking, who am I? What do I know? Why should you listen to me? My name is Sam Marilich. I run a recruiting agency called Next Venture. I've been hiring people for B2B tech companies for the last 8.5 years, primarily in San Francisco, in New York, kind of in North America more broadly. Let's jump on in. First trend, companies were cautious. And this was quite similar to 2023. People have been pretty cautious about hiring people for the last 2 years. It wasn't a frozen market, right? So it really was an improvement on 2023, but it was also a market where incremental headcount growth, it needed to match that incremental revenue growth. It's kind of this whole margins improving, return to profitability that we've seen over the last 2 years. Second thing, it was an employer's market. This is closely related to the first point. It was probably the best market in the last 5 years to recruit really, really good talent. People aren't terrified to move. But the downside to this, especially if you're a job seeker, is the people that were being hired were people that were currently employed. And you have a lot of people who hopped multiple times over the last few years, especially in 2021, 2022, that found themselves just caught entirely out of the market. Third point, compensation was fairly flat. So this is a side effect of number 1 and number 2. You could hire really good people. I help my clients hire some really, really great people. But these people were not interested in taking a compensation cut. Usually what we saw were lateral moves where people were moving towards a better product, were moving towards a better comp plan, were moving towards more equity, were moving towards, frankly, better managers and all these sorts of things. Fourth, SDRs are in a really weird place. So SDRs or sales development reps, this has been going on for more than a year now. Remote work has made cold calling a lot harder. Email providers are clamping down a lot on cold outreach. It feels like the rules there change every few weeks, which has made the playbook that SDR and SDR organizations have been running for the last 15 years just not work in the same way that it used to. So what's the answer? Well, it depends. We've got some companies that are still using this old playbook to successfully book meetings. Other companies are using SDRs to do events and other forms of field marketing. Now, I don't think the SDR role is dead, just for the simple fact that companies need a pipeline of junior talent. And frankly, that junior talent often stays a lot longer than people you hire in at a more senior level. Now, it doesn't matter if those people are generating leads via conferences instead of cold calling. I don't personally think so. Number 5, AI didn't seem to touch sales. Now, I think it's fair to say that we've found the paradigm that's going to take tech beyond SaaS. But what does this mean for salespeople? Well, so far, the answer is not really a whole lot. My thesis is pretty simple when it comes to how companies think about B2B salespeople. The reason that companies use B2B salespeople to sell is because it's what the buyers want, right? So if you're thinking from the perspective of a Fortune 500 company, these companies do not want to enable their managers to buy solutions at will. This is why they have legal review. This is why they have IT review, procurement departments, and so on. You'll see people talk about the growth of shadow IT as a major problem to kind of just talk through why they don't want to enable these individual manager level kind of buyers. If these tech companies could sell products without salespeople, they 100% would. They'd dramatically improve their margins, they'd reduce their operational complexity. At the low end, all salespeople are eternally under threat from the buy now button. That hasn't changed and that won't change. Number 6, DEI, and I would say like a lot of the concerns around that it's more or less dead. In 2021, at my previous company, just to give you an example of like how far this has shifted, we had a client that would pay us 10% more if we found them a DEI candidate. Now it's not even a consideration in the hiring process. Optimistically, we're asking people questions like, can this person do the job? Or do we like their personality instead? And I think, in the last few days, if you see what's coming out of Meta, they've rolled back a whole lot of DEI, especially in their hiring department. I think we're going to see a lot more of that as we go through the year. So, some predictions for 2025. Well, first one, companies are going to ramp up hiring. Every single conversation I've had with companies over the last 12, even 15, 16 weeks has just been positive. Companies are back thinking about growth. The general consensus is that rates are going to drop. Second one, I think compensation is going to go up for in-person and stay flat for remote. The in-office versus remote debate continues to rage on. I think it's pretty tiresome. It's very clear that some employees, especially parents with young children, can get an enormous quality of life boost with remote working. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, remote working is not great for junior careers. Frankly, I think it's terrible to have your 22-year-old junior salespeople working from home. So where does this leave us? Well, my suspicion is we're going to see a lot of companies continue to hire remote, but at a lower compensation rate. The days of being able to kind of do this arbitrage where you live in Boise and make a San Francisco income, they're just beyond us. They were a nice 2-year kind of blip, but the market is kind of going back to just what it's traditionally been. I'm not super confident about, but I'd love to see it, is we'd see another big boom. Now, when I wrote this was kind of early December, and ServiceTitan had just had a very successful IPO. Klaviyo was at an all-time high. Now, if we look through just some of the IPO candidates and their current valuation, there's Stripe at about a $70 billion valuation, Databricks at a $55 billion valuation, Canva, $32 billion valuation, and Wiz at a $20 billion valuation. And all of these companies have multi-billion dollar revenue kind of streams, right? Like they actually make sense from a public investor's point of view. Now, even if 20% of these companies get sold at the valuations I just quoted, there's about $34 billion of liquidity. And if we know anything about people that make money from investing in tech, they love to turn that around into another investment in tech. There's more than 50 of these companies waiting behind them in the pipeline. Apparently SoftBank are thinking about raising another $100 billion fund. So I think there's a pretty good chance we just see a whole lot more money go into tech. You might say that's irrational. You might say this is foolish. Didn't we learn our lesson? You're 100% right, but have you seen the price of Bitcoin lately? So I'll leave you with 2 next steps. If you would like a guide on how to find great salespeople, there is going to be a link below. And if you are thinking about hiring for your sales team, you should book some time to speak with me. That link will also be below. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.